All right, back here on the Morning Wake Up. Good morning, everybody. Welcome again to your Tuesday. This is hour number 2 as we roll along on this 17th day of the month of May. Decent weather as we go through the week. Not quite as warm as it was to close out last week, but no complaints. None whatsoever. Some people have complaints in a relationship. And this is a tough subject today because I think when you look at the high rate of divorce, I think people give up on marriages in this country too soon. But that's another issue, okay? This today is an honest appraisal of when you know or your partner knows it's time to leave and go away from a marriage relationship here. Are there markers that are there that are they're just irreconcilable? Even to have a good, healthy relationship with good mental health, sometimes the answer to that is unfortunately going to be yes. Let's talk about it today with a good doctor, Dr. John Braccio, Regional Psychological Services in East Lansing. drjohnb.com for the podcast, and he's on the other end of our line. Good morning, sir. Welcome.
Well, good morning to you, Dave. And this is a difficult topic because when people enter a marriage or long-term relationship, they really expect it to be permanent. And a lot of times people grow apart. There can be people forgetting that like a garden, it can look beautiful, but a marriage is like a garden. It always has to be, worked on. So aside from obvious reasons of infidelity and physical or emotional abuse of you or children, there really are other important factors in determining if your marriage or relationship is best to consider ending. Okay, the following would be factors to be considered, and if you'll find if they're heavily weighing you down emotionally, and you just can't think they can be changed, or you don't believe they can, this is a time really to try to make a final attempt anyway to resolve them. And if you can't, then that can be a sad ending to what could have been a very good or was even a good relationship in the past. So these are the things that really to take a look at, that if you're having these particular issues. Do the problems relate to current difficulties? Because a lot of people are having difficulties in their regular life. Or is it really relating to both of you as persons? And what have you attempted to do to resolve these feelings and to save the marriage, okay? And how well do each of you compromise? Very critical thing. And what advice would you give to a best friend if living under the identical circumstances as you are? What would you suggest they do? And then what percentage of time do you feel you're experiencing happiness and satisfaction in your relationship? And nothing, are you best friends? Are you even really friends? And then do you stay because of the children? And if so, really what impact would divorce have on them? Okay, then another, are you fulfilled in the relationship emotionally? If not, what can you do? Can you change this? What can happen? And then does your spouse respect those aspects of you that are essential to your self-esteem, who you really are? Do you feel you're respected? Do you have a lack of love and resulting physical and emotional intimacy? I mean, are these really lacking in the relationship? Are you no longer a partnership, two ships sailing in different directions? Are the relationships in a blended family causing chaos? Blended family situations can be very difficult when there's hurt on all members, if you have that. Do you enjoy living your life together and sharing your experiences and dreams? Do you have the same dreams in terms of for the future? Do you feel you've invested too much time in the relationship to end it? This could be another big thing. Yeah. Do you feel that you believe you must stay morally or spiritually? And do you feel you must stay in the relationship because of economics? So these are really a lot of key factors that people have to really take a look at when they're really just feeling dissatisfied, unhappy, even just going through even a lot of emotional pain. So it's a tough thing, but this is something many people are looking at every day, Dave.
This is incredibly complex, but then so are marriages. It's like the human body. What a wonderfully complex thing. It's so simple, yet it's not. And the same thing with, I think, a good marriage or even one that can be saved. You've got to go through that list that and I'm sure you're not saying that's exhaustive, but those are the ones you consider to be the most important. Okay, so my question would be, if you had those, that number, you've got pushing 20 things there, how many of those do you check off in the no, this isn't working box before you say it's time to walk? Is it 1? Is it 4? Is it 7? Or some? You see where I'm going with that? I mean, does it have to be usually a combination of those to make you say, or a person say, I can't do this anymore. I just can't.
I think it is really a combination. The one in there that's a little different are blended families. When blended families don't get along and there's a lot of chaos and a lot of difficulty, that's a major reason why a second marriage, even though we're maybe thinking more first relationships here. But that's kind of the one in there that's a little different. That can be a one that can lead to the ending of the relationship. The other factors, those are all things that hopefully people can try to work on. The more of them you have, obviously, the more difficult it's going to be to pull yourself together. If people don't have romance in their relationship, They don't have the same goals, they're moving in different directions, those are times that you can sometimes call a timeout, sit down, have a real meeting and say, look, we're not going the right way. I'm not happy. I'm not satisfied. I don't think you are either. We have to make some major changes if we can move on. And then initially try to talk, work things out. You can bring in, that's where family, where ministers, therapists can all be helpful.
Okay.
But if you're having a lot of these weighing you down, a lot of times, Dave, as much as I hate to see it, people have just moved too far apart. They've gone in completely different directions for so long. And when people have children, they have to make sure that they don't lose themselves either. They have to maintain their relationship even as they're raising their children. So these are all, there's so many issues. And, in the mythical world of everyone lived on a farm, it was a little different. Everybody had a role. Everybody was tuned in. Now you often have the husband, the wife, both are working. Kids are going in different directions. It's a lot harder to keep everything in place. And in some ways it can be easier too with all the technological advances we have. So I just believe though if you see that things are really going this way, hopefully, I'm always a believer that something that pulls people together when they loved and they really cared, that they can try to go back. So where marriage encounters can be helpful. This is where therapy, where soul searching can work out. But the two people would have to say, yes, we have these issues. Yes, we have to work on them. But there are situations where people have just gone so many different directions, different.
I can imagine you've worked with couples where one says, I don't think there are any problems at all, and the other one is convinced, and that's about as big a red flag as you can fly off the stern of the ship, isn't it? I mean, wow.
It really is, Dave. And I'll tell you what's really sad. You can be talking to two of the most wonderful people you're going to meet. You'd love to have a neighbor on each side of you. They just don't get along, and they can't find ways to get together where people can just be, and some are just very, very stubborn. My belief is, particularly when there are children involved, which the results are, unless there's real abuse or real difficulties in a home, there's no good results for kids. When someone says, I had to do it for me, the question always has to be, well, there are children you brought in, and this can be very devastating. So these are all, it's a very difficult stew to be dealing with, very, very difficult brew, call it what you will. But if people, can sit down, can work things out, it's perfect. I mean, that's what you want to try to do. So it's important. And if you're listening to us or thinking about this and you think you have a good one, good for you, but keep working on it. It's like a garden. You're never done working on a relationship. It doesn't matter how good you think it is, because you're always going to be growing and developing in potentially different ways. So you want to ride it together. You want to ride the dreams and the excitement and the goals of both of your lives as you're living together and enjoying life together. That's what a good relationship is.
And a great thing for younger people here, maybe not so young people, don't enter into matrimony lightly. Consider it very, very carefully, because later when there are problems, I mean, it's not just going to be you. There are other people involved, and it's a complicated, as I said, it's a complex, complicated thing. As we talked today about the right time, if there is ever one, sometimes clearly there is, to leave a marriage relationship, and what might be some of the reasons, or mainly combination of reasons, that would lead to that. Our good friend, the good doctor, Dr. John Braccio, Regional Psychological Services of East Lansing, Dr. John B, the letter B.com. That's the website to go to for all the podcasts. Great to have you on, Doc. Take care. Stay safe. Tough subject. And we'll continue the conversation next week.
Always a pleasure, my friend. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir. All right. We're back in a moment on the Morning Wake Up. Don't go away. 1320. Keep it here on WILS.